So, what was your preparation strategy? Because I think most of our viewers are watching this podcast would be interested to work in giants like Gartner. So, did you face any rejections before Gartner? If yes, how did you handle them? So, a lot of students avoid sales. So, when a sales company comes to a campus, a lot of students avoid filling that sales company, that sales opportunity. So, why do you think that there is still a skepticism surrounding the sales even right now? Hi, viewers. Welcome to another exciting podcast from Skill Sapiens, the podcast where we dive into stories that inspire, inform, and ignite. I'm your host, Arpan, and today we have with us someone whose journey is a masterclass in clarity, confidence, and cracking high stake roles. Joining me today is Amartya Rajkumar, who secured a prestigious B2B business sales internship at Gartner. Yes, that Gartner, the global leader in research and advisory services. We'll be diving deep into his preparation strategy, the mindset required to crack this organization, how to demystify the world of sales, and what inspiring first year MBA students should do to carve their path for success. Amartya, welcome to the show.
Hi, Arpan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and share my journey with everybody.
We are even more excited to have you and share your journey with our viewers because a lot of viewers are standing on the same position as you were 1 year ago. And it feels so great to interview you because we have been trying our level best to bring you, but because of your tough schedule with Gartner, it was kind of impossible. So, thank you so much for lending your time first to have your podcast with us. So, let's
Happy to help. Yeah.
start with the story behind the story. So you've studied at Navy Children's School and pursued an BBA from Manipal University, and now you are studying at IMI. So what shaped your mindset as you navigated all these phases?
That's a great question, Arpan. So I think I'll start from the privilege. I had the privilege of coming from a defense background. My father was in the military, because of which we had a central education system, the Navy Children's School, which is set up in a lot of different naval bases. So I've spent time studying in Goa, a little bit in Mumbai, and also in Kerala. Uh, I feel like the Navy Children's School takes a lot of effort in holistic development in students, and that has really shaped the way I navigate my not only interpersonal skills, but also in the way I navigate any interests that I have. Moving after school in my 12th standard, I had decided I wanted to learn a lot about business. And by business, I mean not wanting to do a BCom or a CA. I just wanted to understand how different verticals of business operates. And that is why I went on to Manipal University to do my BBA. And post my BBA, during my BBA, I was given a huge platform to try new things in order to express my communication, take part in competitions, and also most importantly, the internship phase during my BBA gave me a lot of insight into what industry I want to move towards. I was always very interested in a role that includes a lot of critical thinking, and also loved any kind of environment where we had to think on our feet very fast. So I enjoyed that entire process. I took part in a lot of Model United Nations competitions, business management competitions, where you do either research and development, or you're the CEO of a company and you have to pitch a presentation. So a lot of these competitions gave us real time help in not only cracking interviews that I see in hindsight, but also in how we communicate our ideas, whether it is at an academic level or at a corporate level as well. So that is an avenue that really helped me explore a lot about my own self. And right before joining IMI, I had the privilege and pleasure to work with such an amazing organization like Ditto Insurance. And this is an organization that is probably an antithesis to what a lot of people think is a traditional sales job, because it's purely consultancy sales. It's consultative in a nature where we have to listen to our users and understand what they require. And that again helped me navigate my life at IMI much better. I was able to come into this college with a lot of clarity on what I want to do, and whatever it is that I chose I want to do, I knew how to execute that in terms of articulating my interests. So I think that was so far what my journey has been.
That's great to hear. Like your journey from being from Navy Children's School to BBA to IMI with Ditto Insurance and now at Gartner. It feels so great to hear that. So you said that you've done a BBA from Manipal University. So like, how did this BBA background help you or challenge you, for that matter, in your IMI or in your corporate life ahead?
That's a great question. I feel like an education like either a BBA or BCom is very fundamental in understanding a lot of basic requirement details on how an organization runs. So I felt like a BBA was a great platform for me to learn about various verticals and multifaceted parts of a business. And during that experience, I was able to choose, I was able to see which vertical or which area of business I am most drawn towards. And to be honest, in terms of my abilities and skills, I feel like, yes, working in consultative sales, or whether it's B2B sales, or whether it is even consultancy for a large period of time, I feel like maybe there is a certain core competency. But I like the fact that my time at Manipal allowed me to explore a lot of things. In fact, I did a small internship in human resources as well. And I did my specialization in financial markets because that was a subject I wanted to learn, and not from a point of academics. It is a point that if I learn a little bit of finance, I'll be able to speak much more on the topic. So I feel like I gained a lot during my time in Manipur.
That's such a descriptive answer, and I believe through this answer, viewers will also be able to understand that how do you do a career planning? Like, how do you understand that? How do you navigate through your undergraduation? How to select subjects? How to select your interests, etc. So, thank you so much for such a descriptive answer. Now, let's come to the big elephant in the room: cracking a company like Gartner. So, what was your preparation strategy? Because I think most of our viewers are watching this podcast would be interested to work in giants like Gartner. So, what was your preparation strategy?
That's great. In fact, I wish there was something I could listen to as well as a reference point before I started my preparation. But I'll be honest, the entire preparation just started from understanding what Gartner requires from our cohort and what is the requirement of the job. And I think this is so essential, not only in terms of being better prepared for the interview, but also personally for you to make a decision whether this is a role you actually want to commit towards. Now, we all have this stress during our placement season that, whatever options are coming, you should take it with both your hands. And I completely agree with that. But I feel like you should try to find a little bit of alignment towards your interests and the job that's coming through as well. So I believe the first thing you should do when any company is coming, completely understand what that job requires. What does the job entail? And a little hack that I've used is just upload the job description on ChatGPT or any AI and ask it for very basic information, like what is my day to day going to be and what are the required skill sets that I need to actually do well in this organization. And if those skill sets somewhat match with mine, or if those skill sets are certain skill sets that I want to develop personally, I feel like that is a job description you should genuinely put in a lot of effort towards. The next thing I would probably say in terms of my preparation is to skew or also prepare my CV, that will my resume that will resonate with my value proposition to what a company like Gartner requires, right? So I want to be able to use keywords that shows that not only the fact that I use, for example, a CRM system in my undergraduate, but I was also supposed to show how I'm effectively able to use a CRM system so that I'm able to give a company like Gartner context that not only does he know how to use it, but he knows how to use it at a certain efficiency. So I feel like showing your skills instead of just as a factoid, showing it as a use case on how those skills have helped you perform, that will be very, very useful. So, for example, in my resume, instead of just writing, I used a CRM system, I mentioned I used CRM systems in a systematic way to reduce CRM errors, to reduce scheduling errors, right? So I feel like that is a language that resonates very highly with recruiters.
Thank you so much for such a beautiful answer. So, did you face any rejections before Gartner? If yes, how did you handle them?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not only about my experience here during the placement process, but also post my undergraduation when I was searching for other alternatives because I wanted to keep my options open. There were many interviews where I was a little bit dejected. I'll speak specifically more about our placement process here in campus. There was a role that was offered from an investment company that was somewhat client facing and also operationally related, where I resonated a lot with the requirement for the job. I wanted to understand investor needs and help build a portfolio that would be suitable for them. They had an aptitude test, which I unfortunately was not able to clear. And there was a moment of dejection. It's natural. We're all human beings. We kind of project our expectations to these things. But I think the trick is to be calm and composed, not to get too flustered about one opportunity, because I believe genuinely that there is going to be something in your future, whether you're not able, even if a rejection or if you feel like an aptitude test is something that you missed out on, you can use that as a learning experience to refine yourself for the next opportunity that comes. So even when it comes to this aptitude test, I knew that this is not the only thing. There is going to be another round of interviews for this organization. So I put myself in that shoe. Let's assume I had cleared the aptitude test. Now, how would I prepare for that interview? And that entire preparation really helped me contextualize to how I would use it with Gartner as well.
So when it comes to placement season, there is a lot of pressure on students. Like there is a lot of pressure of companies coming in of different rounds of interview, and then you get shortlisted, and sometimes you get dejected from each of these rounds. So how do you handle pressure, or how one should handle pressure when it comes to summer placements or final placements for that matter?
I think that's a brilliant question. It's something that a lot of first time hires should be focusing on because we can tend to put a lot of our own expectations into these processes. Personally, what has worked for me has been to take things one thing at a time. We know there are going to be multiple rounds of interviews, so I don't try to jump far ahead to wonder what my final HR interview is going to be like. And personally, a motto or a mantra for me is I'm not largely outcome oriented. I don't care too much about how this is going to pan out for me, but it's more of an exploration that I want to do this activity with my entire effort just to see whether those efforts actually resonate in terms of alignment, like what my interests are, just being honest about what you like and dislike and where your skills are. I feel like that is a much more truthful endeavor instead of trying to, present yourself as the most suitable candidate for an interview because you can only put on a mask for so long. Even if eventually when you join your internship, after a few weeks, few months, you start to get comfortable, people will realize that you're not everything you said in an interview. So I believe it's very important. Take one thing at a time, put your entire effort in every step and try to have as much fun as possible. And for me, the biggest resource I've had were the seniors in my college. Whether they were seniors who took part in the Gartner interview process or they were seniors who had landed a job or an SIP in a similar field, just trying to talk to them, get some insights into what it is that a lot of these companies are looking for, and try to decide if I can, if I have those skills and requirements for those jobs. It gives you a lot of confidence. So don't try to work alone. Try to have people to talk to because that will help you try to distract yourself from a lot of your anxieties and stress because during the placement season you can definitely tend to overthink a lot. So be confident, focus on one round at a time, and have support system that you can talk to. These are probably my three biggest go-tos in terms of how to handle a stressful placement system.
Thank you so much. This answer would prove really, really helpful for the students who are prepping for placements because even the incoming MBA students, even before coming into a B school, they think about summer placements. And this is something very evident and obvious also. But we believe that this answer would help them. So when you look back into your Gartner's interview or any other big company interview, so what was the biggest question that most difficult question that you feel that ever was asked to you? And if you would like to highlight about it.
Wonderful. I mean, I feel like we can all learn a lot from everybody's previous failures as well. I wouldn't consider it failure, but I would say a really difficult question that I had to face, although on the face of it, it might seem very simple, was a role playing situation. It was round three of a company's interview process. I'll specify it was Gartner as well. It was to see how you're able to handle a difficult situation. It's called a challenger sale. So challenger sale basically means you're put in a situation that is, there is a hard sell and you need to be able to try and stay as composed as possible. A great example would be to try and sell a gym membership to somebody who's absolutely not interested in getting in shape. Now that just puts you directly in the deep end. You know, you're on a phone call, or let's say you're on a Zoom meeting with somebody. You're supposed to first try and build a little bit of a rapport with the person you're talking to, try to understand their intent. This is entirely consultative in its nature, and there you provide a solution to how you can move ahead. But when you know that the person you're talking to already has an answer saying, no, I'm not interested in getting in shape and a gym subscription is useful for me, it can be very frustrating for someone who's trying to do it for the first time. So that was a situation, particularly to me, that stands on the top of my head, where I felt like that was the toughest part of my entire process. Because again, I was at that moment in time very focused on the outcome, that I wanted to conduct this entire round in a sense that where I'm able to show that I'm able to provide this final gym membership, which clearly is not the objective. A company like Gartner doesn't want to be able to see that whether you're able to manipulate and push that sale. It's more about how well you try to take time to understand your clientele and whether you can service them. And if you can't service them, you have to inform them that maybe our services don't align. So I think that was not only a tough situation for me, but I learned a lot in that situation.
Thank you so much for sharing this experience. So, one more thing that most students like fear about is resume. So, although resume is a one-pager perfect document, so everything is like trying their level best to bring the best. But there are a lot of workshops that are being conducted for resume building. So, what is something that worked for you when it comes to resume?
That's great. So, like I mentioned a little earlier about how I presented my resume for the time of my interview process as well. One big thing in terms of using jargon and words about, let's say, tools and softwares you've used, don't just use them in terms of the fact that you know how to use it. I use a framework that shows action and result, saying that I have used this to get a certain amount of result. Like I mentioned, instead of just saying I've used a CRM system, or I know how, let's say, Salesforce CRM works, if I specify I have reduced CRM errors by 25% or increased customer retention just through best practices in CRM by 20 or 25%, that not only shows I know how to use the system, but I'm able to show that what results I've been able to get out of them, which gives a lot of insight to recruiters. That's point number one. The second thing is keep your CV role relevant. You want to be able to keep your CV as relevant or as aligned to what the recruiters are looking for. And this also has to be in a very transparent manner. Like I mentioned, you can't just add jargons and keywords that will probably pass an ATS scanner. You need to be able to use words that you can justify and confidently stand behind. So eventually in an interview, if someone questions me on, let's say, okay, you mentioned this keyword that is specific to our role. Can you speak a little bit about it? I will only use words that I have the confidence to speak about. So you need to be very transparent and at the same time keep it relevant to the role you're applying for. And the last thing is to actually get some credibility in your CV. So whether it is about putting a certification in a course, or whether it is about doing a higher education or a diploma or working on a live project in relevant fields, it gives a lot of credibility to recruiters saying that, okay, not only does this person have a lot of bookish and contextual knowledge, but they have used this at a certain level as well. And even for freshers, I'm saying whether you have taken up a live project on Coursera, whether you've taken up a live project from LinkedIn, I feel like these are great avenues for adding a lot of credibility to your CV without actually having direct work experience.
That's a great answer. So, resume is sometimes planned or it sometimes is organically built through interest. So, how much do you agree with this statement?
I believe it's very important. Again, I think a lot of clarity is required. I mentioned a little bit earlier that you should not be adding words to your resume just so that it attracts a lot of clicks from recruiters, because it has to be organic to your own interests. Like you mentioned, when you build your own resume, that resume should tell a story about who you are, like how you've gone from your education, how that has shaped your higher education, how that has shaped your interests in whichever role you're moving towards. And you should also highlight a certain amount of, let's say, credibility and job experiences in those interests. So I feel like you should always try and be transparent in your resume and try to tell a story in your resume, and don't use words or jargons just for the sake that this is a recruiter and they like these words, because they're able to see through it very quickly. So that's the biggest advice I have. And I largely agree that you should try and keep your resume as organic through your own interests and your likes, because that way you'll get an organization that is searching for someone like you, instead of you trying to become someone like what an organization requires.
Thank you so much. I believe this answer would be very helpful to the students who are preparing their resume, because a lot of people have this misconceptions about resume, about jargons, and you have very descriptively qualified this statement, and I believe the viewers would be very helpful for this. So moving gears, what do you think? Like, is luck something a deciding factor in placements? That is, does it make some sense? Because believe me, a lot of students come up with this thing that probably this was not my day. So, does it actually work this way?
This is a very insightful question, and I want to be able to answer it very carefully. Uh, I do personally believe there is a little bit of luck involved, not in terms of whether it is your day or not, but it's just because of the simple numbers. Now, if you look at the number of companies recruiting and compared to the number of students who are in top these schools who are applying for those jobs, there is a big disparity. You have like an X number of people who are trying to fill a very, very small fraction of that into these roles. So when it comes to shortlisting, whether it comes to your prerequisites of, let's say, work experience, whether it comes to what is something that you've done in the past, whether you're an engineer or a non-engineer, these are definitely things that have a factor in whether you get shortlist or not. But I don't believe we should focus too much on that. Whether I get a shortlist or not is not something I should be focused on. What I should focus on, once I do get a shortlist, how do I make the most of it? A lot of people, if you just accept the axiom that luck plays a factor, you become complacent and you just make that as a part of your own identity, saying that I did not get a job because I was unlucky. And I think that's an unhealthy way to look at it. There will be a time when you get a shortlist. There might be times you don't get a shortlist. That should not be your concern. The concern should be that when you do get a shortlist, are you the best prepared you've ever been to make the most of that shortlist and try to convert it as much as you can. So I believe that's what people should be focused on, and I don't think luck plays a factor in that at all.
Thank you so much for clarifying this for our viewers. So, let's talk about sales. So, do you think that sales is something that that had came naturally to you? Was it your first choice, or did you? Is it something that came through career exploration?
That's a great question, because to be honest, no. As I told you, during my undergraduate, I had a time to do a brief internship in the domain of human resources. Post which I had realized that's not an area I probably have a core competency in. So I wanted to study finance, and I took up a major specialization in finance as well. Post which I was not really looking for sales as a job, because I knew the subjects that I'm studying. I wanted to be able to work somewhere in that industry. But during my time, since it was the COVID time, my career exploration landed me at an organization like Ditto, where I had a lot of apprehensions that, okay, it is a consultative sales role. I have to spend time talking to people. And although I have done a little bit of case competitions and public speaking before, I did not think my interpersonal skills were my biggest forte, to be very honest. So I genuinely understood a lot of myths that were busted to me about sales during my time at Ditto. So I went through that entire exploration where I realized sales isn't everything I thought it was. There is so much more to it. There is so much exploration in sales. There is so much problem solving, and there's so much building of relationship in sales. And that is why I feel like I've inculcated a nature towards sales instead of seeking out sales. I believe that I've defined my personality that now makes me aligned towards sales, but also I feel like I'm in a position where I can explore a lot of other jobs.
That's a beautiful answer. So, a lot of students avoid sales. So, when a sales company comes to a campus, a lot of students avoid filling that sales company, that sales opportunity. So, why do you think that there is still a skepticism surrounding the sales even right now?
I'll be very honest, it is because of the experience people have had with sales, right? Now, a lot of there is a public perception that sales is, a very pushy, spammy, and a manipulative job. And that is from a consumer's point of view. And as a employee point of view, it seems like a very high pressure environment where there are targets to be met, there are deadlines to be met, and during that time you also have to deal with a lot of rejection because it is a client facing role. So the moment you articulate value that your organization has to another person, there's always going to be a X factor that there is going to be a rejection, right? So there is a lot of perception that people have that they don't want to take up a role that is so challenging, where you have to put yourself out there, articulate a certain amount of value, have a lot of deadlines and pressure, target pressures on your head, and on top of that, there is a chance of rejection. But none of this is very true. This is just a large perception that people have, especially when you're talking about B2B sales. The ball game is completely different. Whether I'm a business owner and somebody is selling a service or a product to me, they're not going to sell it to me with a desperation of sales. They're going to look at it whether the product or service they have, does it actually help solve a problem you are facing. If it doesn't, you don't need to buy the product or subscribe to the product. Only if our services and offerings have some kind of product market fit or alignment with the client we're servicing, only that way you build a relationship. And I feel like it's such a great exploration at sales, where you get to listen and understand so many insightful problems in different businesses. In fact, my time at Gartner here has just been an exploration of understanding various young businesses that are doing so well, and what are those insightful problems each of these industries are facing. So now, whether I'm having a normal conversation with a bunch of friends or if I'm talking at home with my parents, I have a much better worldview of how a lot of businesses run. And you solve a lot of unique problems that a lot of other people don't. It's almost like you're solving problems at a founder level and how to kind of help alleviate those problems. And you build these relationships over a long period of time. It is not a small contract relationship. And these long relationships further drive a lot of growth for the organization you work in. So you should look at it more from a perspective of advisory services and consultative services, where you want to understand, listen to your clientele, and then come up with a hypothesis of, see, this is your problem and these are the ways we can help you. And if that alignment doesn't work, then it's best for both parties to move on and you start exploring new avenues. So I feel like this is a lot of things that people don't know about sales. And it is, at the end of the day, the most important thing for any organization. I could have the most brilliant product or service in the world, but if I'm not able to articulate it to the market, people are not going to come searching for me. So yeah.
Thank you so much for this answer, Amartya. So, we have one more question related to sales. So, people still call sales a fallback, but you say it's a fast track. So, why do you think the sales deserve more attention in the
Uh,
current scenario?
That's a great question. Like how you mentioned, whether people consider it a fallback or a last resort in terms of a career path. I feel like that's a very large misconception. In fact, I would consider sales to be a great way to build a very strong career that will almost fast track you to leadership position, because that's what history teaches us. If you look at people like Howard Schultz, who's the CEO and founder of Starbucks, or if you look at people like Warren Buffett, who started as a door-to-door salesman for stocks, it's all about having a certain conviction in something and being able to stand behind it. The best people, only a person who knows their product and service the best can are able to articulate the value of that product very well. And that is why I feel sales is a great avenue to explore your own organization and business at a very deep level. uh, Obviously, when you talk about finance as well, when you're talking about the wealth or the career trajectory in terms of the money you make, sales is a very lucrative job. It has a very glamorous perception in the work industry. For example, even if you look at Wall Street and a lot of investment banks, they prefer hiring ex salesperson in their flows because salespeople critically understand revenue growth very well. And when they're dealing with very high level executives, like you're talking to CXOs, there is a lot of interpersonal skills that are required that sales teaches you. If I'm somebody who's an individual contributor at an organization and I develop a special area expertise in something, all in good. We need all types of people to make this world run. I just personally believe, in terms of a trajectory personally that I wanted, where I want to be in a high level position, or I want to be in a position where I can have an enterprise of my own. Sales teaches you a lot of how to solve problems at a very short period of time, think quickly on your feet, and you get to explore every business at a depth and breadth that no other job can give you. So being a salesperson, you get to understand not only your own company at the very granular level, you get to also understand all and each and every different clientele you're serving at a very granular level. So your market overview is great. So let's say tomorrow I'm trying to transition to an industry and I'm trying to understand which industry is showing a lot of promise. Probably a market analyst and a salesperson would probably be the most equipped to understand these market dynamics better than anyone else. And that is why I consider sales or consultancy sales as a fast track to your career growth.
Right. So, for all the first years listening, what's your playbook for the summer placement process, the summer placement success?
Perfect. I would say first of all, start early. We all know we are going to a B school for our personal outcomes and try to get a job that not only is a role that fulfills our requirements, but also a role that justifies a certain amount of income as well. So you should start early. You should definitely, the moment you enter a B school, at least have an idea of how to articulate your story, like who I am, where I come from, what is it that I want to do, and what is it that I'm good at. This is the basic that you need to be able to communicate in terms of whether you're applying for a finance job, whether you're applying for an HR role, whether you're applying for a marketing or a brand management role. It doesn't matter. All that matters is how well you're able to explain where you're coming from, why you think you'll be good at this job, and what drives you. So this is very important. The second thing is practice, practice, and practice. You cannot take it for granted saying that, okay, there is a company, there's going to be an interview, and I'll just go with it day one. Because how you sit in an interview, certain body languages, the way you speak, these are not things that will just come overnight. You need to be able to sit with it, practice it, and the best way you can do it is to speak to seniors who have gone through the process with you. Because not only it becomes a way for you to practice and have a feedback loop based on which you can tweak your method, but it also gives you a lot of reassurance because in those practices, if you're not doing well, you get a lot of confidence from your seniors saying that it's not a problem. You started early. We've also faced these situations. So you get a lot of insights from them. So start early, practice very thoroughly, and know your story very well. And the last thing is how to be confident. And by when I say be confident, it's not just about being loud. It's not just being about having an opinion and defending it with your life. It is about how you're able to show you're calm, you're composed, and you're also able to show that you think in a very clear and systematic manner. Because only confident people are able to do that. If you're somebody who's immediately anxious, then my thoughts are going all over the place immediately, and that's very telling for a recruiter. So I think these are my biggest go-tos in terms of how you prepare and how your strategy for a summer placement should be from day one of joining an MBA college.
Thank you so much for this answer. I believe the viewers are going to be enlightened by this when it comes to their summer placement process. So, moving gears a bit, now we have a rapid fire round. So, I'm going to speak a sentence, and you just have to say the first word, the first statement that comes to your mind. Are we
All
good
right.
to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, one sales myth that you hate.
That's pushy and manipulative.
Pitch Gartner in 5 words.
Global, insightful, strategic, actionable outcomes, and serves mission critical objectives.
One mantra before going to an interview.
Take a deep breath, be calm, and know yourself through and through.
Biggest preparation mistake that you made.
Trying to memorize answers, it doesn't come off very organic.
Cold call or client meeting.
Client meeting, always. I much prefer because there's already a context set.
This podcast and this host in one word.
Impactful.
Right. Thank you so much for attending this rapid fire. So before we wrap up, one final question. What's your the message to the first year students before they begin their MBA journey?
Just have fun. I feel like a lot of people just get so stuck up in the rat race and wanting, one milestone after the other that they don't spend too much time getting to know themselves very well. You should explore. I genuinely believe that you should explore, put yourselves in situations that make you uncomfortable, try things that you feel you're not good at just to confirm whether you're actually not good at it because you never know. You might actually be good at something you never thought of before. Next is don't run behind trends. There might be certain avenue that's popping off right now or is doing very well right now. But if you feel like you don't have a calling in that segment, don't run towards it. Uh, Next is obviously something we've discussed a few times already is don't look at sales as a backup option, because a lot of people who are genuinely have a lot of core competencies that might make them very, very compelling salespeople, unfortunately just don't end up exploring that avenue, and either they are not getting a job that actually will give them the most benefit in the long run, or many big organizations are losing on very potential talent pool, right? And the last one is try to build a story of yourself. I think I've already touched on this a couple of times, but everybody, no matter the size of the organization, no matter the role you're applying for, they want to know whether you're able to articulate your story and where you come from in a very interesting way, because that is the best way you can stand apart from all your competition, right? Everybody in your first year is going to be competing for roles that you want. Everybody would have studied subjects that are very similar to that you've studied. The chances of people working in an industry that you've worked in before is also high. So what actually sets you apart is the way you communicate, your interpersonal skills, the confidence you show. So this is a very important thing. So it starts with exploring. You need to be able to try new things, and from that point on, you're automatically building your own story. So this is my biggest advice I would give to everyone.
Amartya, thank you so much for this incredible conversation. From resume tips to interview hacks to reframing how we view sales, your story is going to help a lot of people. To everyone listening, remember success doesn't follow one fixed path, whether it's consulting, marketing, or sales. It's all about clarity, intent, and preparation. This is Harpan signing off on behalf of Skills Sapiens. Stay curious, stay humble, and always stay sharp. Thank you so much, Amartya, for joining in once again.
Thank you so much, Arpan, and thank you so much to Skills Sapiens for conducting this amazing activity. I feel like it's a very important platform that will help a lot of students in the future.